the Black Sea grain deal is in limbo. Russia has halted the grain deal, highlighting uncertainty over global food supplies by closing a crucial export route from Ukraine, one of the world's top suppliers of wheat and vegetable oils. The decision announced by Moscow comes a day after a deadly blast on Crimea's bridge. Waterborne drones struck the Seoul Bridge connecting Russia to the annexed Crimea Peninsula. The Kremlin has blamed Kyiv for the drone attacks, which killed 2 people, and shutting down Russia's key artillery for military and civilian access to the peninsula.
A girl has been injured. She has moderately severe wounds. She is already under the care of doctors. Andrei Ikonikov, the Minister of Health of the Belgorod region, is in touch with her. The hardest thing is that her parents died, her mom and dad. I gave instructions to Andrei Gridnev to contact the relatives, as this family is from Novoskolsky district.
Moscow says the 2 events are not related.
Поэтому ее действие прекращается. Как только российская часть договоренности будет выполнена, российская сторона вернется к реализации этой сделки.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, however, says that Russia wants to extend the Ukraine grain deal, despite Kremlin's comments to the contrary.
Despite today's statement, I believe that the President of the Russian Federation, my friend, Mr. Putin, wants this humanitarian bridge to continue.
The landmark deal brokered by the United Nations and Turkey, signed by Moscow and Kyiv in July of 2022. It allowed Ukrainian grain to be exported through the Black Sea. The deal has been extended several times, that too at the last minute. But this time, Russia has been saying for months that conditions for its extension had not been fulfilled.
Она остановилась, зерновая сделка остановилась. Как только будет выполнена российская часть, российская сторона вернется незамедлительно к реализации этой сделки.
Russian President Vladimir Putin had held a phone call with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa discussing the grain deal. Putin reiterated to Ramaphosa that commitments to remove obstacles to Russian food and fertilizer exports had not been fulfilled yet. Meanwhile, EU chief Ursula von der Leyen has condemned Russia's decision. She branded the move as quote-unquote cynical. Britain, for its part, says that the move taken by Russia was, quote, disappointing, and accused Russia of risking global suffering. So the big question now is what will happen as the deal ends? The prices for some staple foods would likely rise, but the situation is better than in the months after the war started. Grain supplies have improved from other producers such as Russia and Brazil. Last week, data showed that wheat prices have fallen about 17% so far this year, while corn is down around 26%. The current global food crisis, however, is far from over. The World Food Programme said last month that multiple emergencies had overlapped, creating the largest and most complex hunger and humanitarian crisis in over 70 years. In 2022, a record 349 million people experienced acute hunger and 772,000 teetered on the edge of famine. For more on this, we are being joined by journalist and a political analyst, James Jackson from Berlin. James, good to see you and welcome back to WION. So the United Nations Security Council is expected to hold a meeting today and discuss the grain deal initiative. How likely is it that we'll find some kind of solution to this crisis?
I think it's really hard to say whether it's likely or not. Right now, Russia has, in the words of EU President, Council President Ursula von der Leyen, found a pretty good excuse for this breaking off of the grain deal. Now, the grain deal, which was backed by Turkish President Erdogan, was quite a good way. The extension was something that Russia had complained about before, but they've found a very good excuse with the bombing of the Kerch Bridge And so, of course, Russia sits on the United Nations Security Council. So it doesn't seem clear that there would be any change in this, that the other members of the council would be able to convince them, because it seems like Russia has found the perfect excuse to not extend it, which then puts pressure on the rest of the world who have been backing Ukraine quite forcefully for the last few months and even years. And actually, it seems like Russia could lose, is worried about losing leverage. Right now, Russia has leverage, Putin has leverage over all of the countries that are dependent, because I think we are going to see, one thing we are going to see absolutely, and are seeing already, is that wheat prices are going up. And that, during a time of high inflation across the Western world and in other countries as well, is a pretty useful weapon in Russia's arsenal.
So Russia says that it's going to get back in the deal if its expectations and demands are met, notably fertilizer and whatnot. So what's holding up that?
I think the biggest issue for Russia is that they don't like being under Western sanctions. Now, of course, the agricultural bank is not under sanctions, under specific sanctions, but all Russian banks have the SWIFT ban, which means that financially Russia is locked out from the global financial system. So they will always be able to say that as an excuse for why they can't sell things, particularly fertilizer, goods which aren't really under sanction. They can point out. But remember, before this, Russia weren't happy with the deal either, before the bombing. So why it should have changed now, it's not clear. But it's also not clear
James
how...
Jackson, thank you so much for joining us on WION.
Thanks.
I apologize. I thought you were finished with your sentence. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thanks.